What if half the people you knew were dead within a year? What if no one could explain why? What if the world you knew simply stopped, and you were one of the ones left standing? The answer in 1338, far from the crowded cities of medieval Europe, in a remote, windswept valley near Lake Issyk-Kul in Central Asia. Local graveyards in this region tell a quiet, highly specific story. Modest limestone markers from that year record a sudden, sharp spike in deaths, attributing the loss to a mysterious pestilence. Centuries later, modern science found the forensic proof buried beneath those stones. DNA extracted from the teeth of the dead perfectly matches a specific genetic branch of the Yersinia pestis bacterium. This quiet valley provided the specific environment for the pathogen to thrive. It was the ignition point for a biological wildfire that was about to consume the medieval world. The disease moved in stages, pulsing westward along the Silk Road trade routes toward the Black Sea. The engine driving this was the flea. As bacteria multiplied and clogged its foregut, the starving insect bit repeatedly, regurgitating the pathogen into rats and humans. In October 1347, that biological chain reaction reached the shores of Europe. 12 Genoese trading ships dropped anchor at the Sicilian port of Messina. Port authorities boarded to a scene of absolute devastation. Most of the sailors were already dead. Those still breathing were delirious with fever, their skin darkened, with oozing black swellings growing in their armpits and groins. The authorities immediately ordered the death ships back out to sea, but the action was futile. The fleas and the rats had already made it to the docks. The decimation of the continent was underway. Once ashore, the infection advanced at roughly 5 miles a day. For the densely packed cities of the 14th century, there was nowhere to hide and no way to outrun it. The speed of the killer shattered basic human bonds. Victims often went from a fever to a corpse in less than 3 days. This velocity caused parents to abandon their sick children and lifelong neighbors to bar their doors against each other. This 14th century illustration shows the logistical nightmare that followed. The volume of corpses quickly overwhelmed the cities. Survivors ran out of consecrated ground, forcing them to abandon individual funeral rites and dig massive, desperate trenches. Archaeological excavations of these mass graves reveal the grim reality of those months. Thousands of dead bodies were laid perfectly head to toe in the dirt, stacked layer upon layer as the death toll mounted. The catastrophe erased the civic duties, religious customs, and the quiet dignities that defined human society. 14th century medicine was completely helpless against the pathogen. Physicians relied on the flawed theory of miasma, believing the disease was cured by foul-smelling air. They treated patients with dried flowers and with bloodletting, only to die right alongside them. When science failed, the people turned to the church. But the priests who administered last rites caught the sickness too. The realization that prayer could not stop the dying led to a terrifying psychological conclusion. God had abandoned them. Desperate for an explanation, panic quickly mutated into violence. Across Europe, terrified citizens hunted for scapegoats, leading to the brutal torture and mass murder of Jewish populations under false accusations of well poisoning. Others turned their terror inward. Bizarre religious cults formed, like the Flagellants, who marched from town to town, publicly whipping themselves until they bled in a desperate attempt to appease a furious deity. When a civilization's foundational safety nets of science and faith fail simultaneously, the broken society descends into violent, desperate anarchy. By 1351, the Great Wave finally burned itself out. What remained was a suffocating silence over a continent that had lost up to 50 million people, roughly half of its total population. The sudden halt left permanent physical scars on the landscape. In places like Siena, massive architectural projects, like the grand extension of their cathedral, were abandoned mid-construction. The work never resumed. Everyday spaces took on a haunting emptiness. Whole farmhouses stood deserted, fields were left unharvested, and bustling urban centers fell completely quiet. The post-plague world was defined by the deafening, profound absence of the living. This chart shows an immediate, severe economic paradox. As the population plummeted, the surviving workforce became extremely scarce, causing the value of human labor to spike sharply. Surviving serfs and laborers recognized their newfound leverage. They began demanding higher wages, better land rents, and simply walked away from abusive lords, fracturing the rigid pyramid of medieval society because they knew they couldn't be replaced. The Black Death cracked the ancient economic order wide open, creating the space for more mobile, modern structures to eventually take root. The survivors rebuilt their world, but they did so carrying a dark, permanent knowledge woven into their art and institutions, that reality is fragile, and everything can be taken away in an instant.